Marketing is everything you do to create awareness that you have a business, and sales is the mutually agreed upon conversation, mutually agreed upon being the key word, the key to that, the mutually agreed upon conversation that we have about exchanging money for services. Everything you do up until that prospect says, yeah, I want to talk to you about that, to me is brand awareness marketing. Now, there's a bridge you got to cross, right? How do you get from marketing to sales? And I like to look at that as intentional, specific behaviors for lead generation. How do I get somebody who's aware of my brand to now interact with me personally to get to a sales conversation? Because sometimes going from point A to point Z is just too far.
Welcome back once again to Over a Pint Marketing, the podcast that focuses on the marketing space. Joining me, as always, my bud, Mr. Kurt Lingle. Kurt is the VP over at Celtic, an award-winning agency located in Milwaukee's 3rd Ward. You got me, is director over at Acedia in Milwaukee's 5th Ward. Today, Kurt, Erin Marcus is joining us. Erin is we were talking a little bit about this before before we went live. I'm continually blown away when I think back. Erin gave a presentation to the AMA. I'm on the board of the AMA. I thought it was going to be good. She freaking blew me away within about 5 minutes, and I'm like, this woman is for real. Like, she's been there. She knows her stuff. She was talking in a way that just freaking connected. I could not be happier to have her on the podcast. Really look forward to having her on. Erin is the founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Erin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm going to continue to give you a hard time about setting the bar, but all right, I think we can do this.
You're going to set it, you're going to smash it, and then you're going to reset it again. That's how good you are, man.
Make it one. Yeah.
Erin, like I said, this is called Over a Pint for a reason. Kurt and I have been known to enjoy a pint or two during the podcast. Erin, what are you enjoying?
Coffee, lots of coffee. Sugar and caffeine are my drug of choice. But I will tell you, because people laugh at me, and this will give you a little bit of insight.
Yeah.
Because I've done another podcast where, like, what's your favorite drink? And I said, there is a zoo. It's very specific. There is a zoo in Minocqua, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
With a vending machine that keeps their drinks 1 degree above freezing, okay? And in a hot summer Midwest day at the petting zoo, a can of Hawaiian Punch out of that particular vending machine is like a life-changing experience.
Hawaiian Punch. We're going back.
It is what it is.
Old school. I like it.
What it is.
Hawaiian Punch.
I don't drink a lot of alcohol. Sugar is my drug of choice, but in particular, a can of Hawaiian Punch out of the vending machine at the petting zoo in Minocqua.
Okay, never in a million years was I going to say a Hawaiian Punch, right? I mean, do they even make that stuff? Obviously, they do in Minocqua.
Do you remember that? Do you remember as a kid the big jugs?
Yes.
And then you'd open with the old school bottle opener. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of just a little bit of sugar in those, but
yeah.
I have a theory that a lot of times you only need to learn one thing about someone, and then you just kind of get it.
Yep.
Now you know. That kind of explains a lot.
Awesome. Mr. Lingle.
Yeah, I've got Erin, I too don't like to drink that much too. Pat makes me. So just so you know, Pat makes me. But all kidding aside, we love to promote the local on this show, and today it's coming in. My background's a little weird today because I'm going from a different space, but I've got Third Space here, and I've got their Heavenly Haze. This is a great brewery. I love their stuff, and I love hazy beer and IPAs. So I'm going to plug Third Space Brewing today.
Awesome. And guys, I knew Erin was going to be here. I knew she was going to be bringing fire. I had to get loaded up. So I'm enjoying a Leinenkugel Summer Shandy. That's one. That's a little bit on the sweeter side, Erin. You might even like that. I've got a Venti Starbucks coffee that I'm going to plow through. I've got a protein smoothie. Oh. Yeah, I've got that here too. So I'm going to need all of it to get through because.
Way to make us look like underachievers already, Pat. I appreciate
I'm gonna need
that.
it. I'm going to need it to keep up with Erin.
Right.
What we're going to go into today is we're going to be talking to her. What I appreciated the most, I think, about her is her understanding of both the marketing as well as the sales space. And I think that is so important for anybody that's in this business. You have to have both sides of that coin, right, in order to really kick ass. So enough about me talking. Erin, let's get into it. Start us off. Give us the background about you. Bring people up to speed about who you are and what you do.
The full origin story. I watch too much Marvel. That's another one. So, the full origin story, right? So I'll do, let's keep it about marketing. The one liner about what I do in business is I'm the founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business, and we create business and branding strategies that build multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses. Strategy being the key word there, right? Strategy, not tactic, strategy. Strategy always comes first. But the background is I've been in sales and marketing for decades. My big fancy title in corporate was Senior Vice President of Business Development for the largest long-term care insurance wholesaler in the country. And I did that for 12 years. And if you're not in financial services, that means 0 things to you, which is fine. It was one of those weird jobs that nobody understood what I did. But what I did, one of the things that I did was I put together the relationships between banks and broker dealers and financial planners, and then the insurance carriers that sold the insurance. And my job was to put the deal together and then go teach the financial planners how to talk to their clients about long-term care insurance and why it was important. So what does that mean? It meant that I made a living teaching financial planners how to sell something they hated to people who didn't want to talk about the problem. Nobody wanted to do this. And that was my world, right? Brilliant, because it's always fun to be in the middle of that. But that's where this whole idea of marketing and sales together, right? One of the best compliments I ever got, my MBA had a dual focus in marketing and executive leadership. And one of the best compliments I got, and I always think about this, is from the instructor on communications, one of the communications class. And he said he really appreciated my ability to communicate with intent. And right there is the key to marketing and sales. Every communication you have, every single communication you have has only one intention, no matter what you're doing. It's to invite somebody to take one more step with you. And if you think about that through your marketing and sales process, that's what I always go back to. What's one more step? What's one more step? Not what's the final outcome that I want, having never talked to you before, right? But what's one more step that I can invite somebody to take with me, making sure that it's about them. And that's where the background, that's my whole approach to everything. And it makes it easier.
Wow. Okay, I want to kind of stick to the script for just a minute, because you said a lot there. I made notes. I want to get back to that. But Erin, here's something I want to know as well is, so you're kicking ass for 12 years doing this tough job, right? Talk to us about how you decided to make them the shift. What was the impetus for that? In why your own business as well? I want to get some of the
Sure.
With that kind of background, I would think, hell, you could go to a lot of different places. You could play the corporate game, right? For another 12, 15, whatever, right?
Right.
Why?
And I thought about that and I looked at it. Here's the horrible truth. I got bored because when I started with that company, there were 7 people. It was a $4 million company. And a couple years later, we went through a merger. We went through an acquisition by a public parent company. And now we have 70 people and we're making $56 million a year. By the way, the average price of our product was $2,500. So we're doing $56 million in business, $2,500 at a time. So this was a huge operation, right? So what happens as businesses get bigger, jobs get smaller and more specific. And I have no attention span. I want to do 80 different things. And so the people I worked with were amazing. I was invited into rooms way above my pay grade and taught everything. and allowed, what I now look back on was I was allowed to really be an entrepreneur within that company. I created new departments. We changed the way I did real estate deals. I was allowed to be an entrepreneur within that business, which is why I stayed for so long. But I reached about 40 and two things happened. One, I got bored. On the strength finders, my top 3 are visionary, strategic thinking, and learning. And if I'm not doing all that, I don't know what to do with myself. And I'm like a border collie. Things go bad if I'm not busy, right? So I didn't know what to do with myself. And so on one side we had that. And on the other side, this weird thing happened as I got immersed in the business that, and this is true about any business, if you're not careful, business gets complicated. Like, things don't accidentally get easier. They accidentally get real complicated. And so I was watching the change in the industry where every layer involved in producing our product was looking to make a nickel on someone else's dime. And it started to feel very contrived and complicated. And even though the people I worked with were great, the projects that kept my interest had started to go away. And the work itself was not what kept me there. Because what I learned now is I like the puzzle of business. I love the ever-changing, moving puzzle of business. Because once something's solved, I don't like playing with it anymore. And so those two things kind of happened at the same time. So the first thing I did actually was I bought a franchise. And by the way, I did not leave that easily. I tried to pay one of my coworkers to give notice for me. He wouldn't do it. There was crying. Like, it was not an easy decision. But one thing I've learned working with hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs, you will do better if you're running towards something than if you're running away from something. If you are quitting your job because your boss sucks and jobs suck and working sucks and everybody else sucks, you will not make it as an entrepreneur, because that's internal. It's not external. So the thing I did have going for me was I was trying to create something more for myself. And the first cliff I jumped off was to buy a franchise. But then the same thing happened. I got my office to the top 10 out of 200 offices in like 18 months because I know the puzzle of business. And that was working with families with aging parents. So brilliant me, right? Hindsight, this was not accurate at all. But brilliant me at the time was thinking, I don't know, long-term care insurance, aging parents, it's the exact same thing. No, but it's okay. I know how to run a business. So then that franchisor was hiring me to help them launch new offices. I was a trainer for new offices. I was speaking at their conferences. And the other thing that started happening there was I decided, okay, where would you rather be? I was working with families with aging parents. I was in the middle of everybody's trauma. Or when I would speak at the networking event and it was my turn to talk about my business, nobody wanted to hear about my business. They're like, yeah, but why are you making money when no one else is? What do you know that we don't? And so my vendors and my partners and my networking partners all wanted me to teach them how to grow a business. And eventually, if the universe hits you over the head enough time, you're like, okay, let me see. Option A is stay in an industry with no barrier to entry where all my competitors are working under the table while I'm paying taxes and insurance, and in the middle of everyone's trauma, tied geographically to a place. Or on the other hand, I can be in the middle of every business owner's aha moment when the light bulb goes off and they start to see what's actually possible for them and teach them how to do it. I don't know, and I can do that from anywhere in the world, and I can do that worldwide. I don't know, where do you want to stay? And so that's when I made the shift to what is now Conquer Your Business.
So one of the things that you talked about in your opening, and one of the things prominent on your website, is branding.
Mm-hmm.
I love this topic. I think a ton of people get it wrong. Talk to us about your approach to branding, where your clients may struggle, where they get it wrong. How do you approach it? Just love to get your take on that aspect.
I think most of the mistakes that people make in their branding come from the same source as the mistakes they make in their business overall. Your business is not about you. Your business is not about you. Your business is about your client. Where is the intersection between the problem that you solve and your client's biggest problem? So you have, that's one pillar.
Mm-hmm.
The second pillar is, where is your authenticity versus what you think you're supposed to be doing? And that's a big challenge when you come out of corporate and then go into the entrepreneurial small business world, learning how to, one, realize whether or not you're being authentic, embrace your authenticity. And I will tell you, I mean, first of all, you can't tell by a podcast and Zoom, but I am 5 feet tall. I'm little. And so I was in financial services surrounded by 6.5 foot tall, older white guys. And here's little Erin, right? And I was allowed more than most to let my freak flag fly, because when you produce results, they give you a whole lot of room, right? So I was allowed a wide breadth of how I could show up and just be me. But that being said, what you really are is successful on a very narrowly defined path that somebody else created. You're part of a process and in a very highly risk adverse environment. And now you have to take that, no matter how autonomous your job was or how great you were at it, you have to take that and now go create a brand that's going to attract people to you. And you have no idea who you are at that point. You have no idea who you are. So people get branding wrong when they try to be what they think they're supposed to be, as opposed to who they actually are, or when they try to hack know, like, and trust instead of build know, like, and trust, when they try to be the first adopter of every single freaking new idea that comes out there instead of just getting really good at the basics. Like, what people don't understand, and I think it just goes against human nature, is most business is boring. If your business is exciting all the time, like you don't really want that. You really don't want that. You're changing too much. You're not, right? And then the other thing is, they don't do the research. They don't do the split testing. They don't vet their offers. They don't see what works and base things on data. We have good gut instincts, but our feelings will lie to us all day long. And so they make these reactionary decisions and reaction. They think branding is, what's your favorite color, and blue means whatever. I don't even know anymore.
Love it.
Yeah. I was just if I could, I just want to go back briefly before we get too deep in the conversation. And Erin, when you were starting to break down who you were, or who you are, if I should say, I was just like, so many things are going through my mind, because I always love that first question out of the gate. And I know it's very cliche, like, tell us about who you are, but you can figure someone out pretty quickly. And there were so many things I was pulling from, like, as I'm trying to always figure people out for the first time, but it's fascinating. It's like, I love the things you were throwing out. Like, clearly this is not an individual that likes to camp. I think you would, which is great. You had said, no. You had said, yeah, exactly. Yes and no. When the problem is solved, after the problem is solved, they get bored. The puzzle of business. And it just was, to me, I'm hearing things that normally I'm not hearing in conversations. And not that people threw out the status quo, but it was kind of cool. I'm like, oh, that's kind of an unusual, in a very unique way, in a different way, to hear someone describe themselves and what they're doing. I like that. And the other thing too is I just want to, the authenticity. I think you're spot on. And it's like, it's challenging. You're right. Because a lot of brands, they're trying to be something that they think they should be, or that they want others, or they think others want them to be. But it's like, you've got to own who you are. And that doesn't mean that we can't improve. It's like, by no means, it's like, that does not mean like, stay as you are. We can all improve. But I think you're spot on. It's like, you got to know your lane, stay in that lane, and then figure out, how can I get better in that lane? You are 100%
you
spot
said
on.
That. The quote that I read yesterday, and it's an old quote from Jim Rohn, but I've been thinking about it a lot, is, don't be upset it's not easier, be upset you're not better. Right? And I think this whole idea of knowing yourself, that's a process, and we grow. Like, I love the idea your business can't outgrow you. Your business can't outgrow the CEO. I don't care if it's $1 billion business. It doesn't outgrow the leadership. We watch this on the news as these big companies break down, right? And it's just more focused in the small business world. Your business can't outgrow you. So that means as you have a personal development journey, your business gets to iterate right along with you. And if it doesn't, and this, I'll give you a funny example. If it doesn't, there's a disconnect and people feel it. They might not know what it is. So I leave the franchise and I'm going to launch erinmarcus.com because I couldn't come up with a name. So, okay, that's my name. Let's do that. And I knew I needed a logo. And remember, I come out of financial services, public parent company, audits, very conservative,
right?
Conflict of interest, rules of engagement. And so I'm looking for something that builds trust. And the first logo that I have someone create for me is a blue and gray square with paisley design in it and my initials in like old English. Like, is there anything about me that's paisley? Like, I grew up in the 80s and didn't wear the paisley. Like, there's a reason 2018 was Erin's year of failure, is because everything I was trying to do, one, I had to figure it out, but two, I hadn't embraced the authenticity part. And the other piece of it is they tell you, like, own the crap out of what you're great at and own the crap out of what you're not. I will be the first person to tell you what I can't do. I don't say yes to things I can't do. I'll tell you who can do them. But that's part of it, right? It's the personal journey to figure that out and be okay with it. And then one of the best pieces of advice I got was from Larry Winget, who was one of my mentors for quite a while. And he used to say it this way: figure out what you are absolutely the best at and exploit it in service to others.
You and I have talked about this, and I want you to share with the audience, Erin, is your approach to marketing and how you look at marketing. You look at it as kind of well, I'm going to let you describe it. The intentional, is that the right way? The intentional versus, yeah. Go into that and how you approach it, because I know we've got a lot of listeners who have their own business, they have small businesses. They're trying to understand, where do I put my time and energy? How do I kind of even look at the whole marketing pie? So break that down for us and how you approach it. I think it's fascinating.
So, and we'll see if this is what you mean, because I have, like you said, I have a million opinions. Well, good or not. So the terrible truth is, as a business owner, you go in a business to do the thing the business does. And as a business owner, your number one job is growing the business. And that is a horrible realization for most people. And I tell my clients, as a business owner, my job is 50% of my time needs to be marketing and sales. 50% of my time has to be on revenue generating, business building, brand awareness activities, right? 25% for client fulfillment and 25% for team building and operations. Like, the thing that causes stress for business owners is an empty pipeline. Right, is an empty pipeline. Marketing, I delineate marketing and sales. Marketing is everything you do to create awareness that you have a business. And sales is the mutually agreed upon conversation, mutually agreed upon being the key word, the key to that, the mutually agreed upon conversation that we have about exchanging money for services. Everything you do up until that prospect says, yeah, I want to talk to you about that, to me is brand awareness marketing. Now, there's a bridge you got to cross, right? How do you get from marketing to sales? And I like to look at that as intentional, specific behaviors for lead generation. How do I get somebody who's aware of my brand to now interact with me personally to get to a sales conversation? Because sometimes going from point A to point Z is just too far.
Mm-hmm.
So lead generation is kind of where those two things cross over, with intentional activities that help move people through a client journey. And I look at a lot of what I do. I use a lot of visuals to help me keep my head on straight. And a lot of times what I'm looking at is bumpers in the gutters, right? How do I keep guardrails up? How do I keep bumpers in my gutters to keep from going from one extreme or the other? So in marketing, I talk a lot about how on one side you have short-term active strategies, on the other side you have long-term passive strategies. And you watch too many people be too far on either end. Someone who only does short-term active strategies, there's no re-engagement, there's no audience nurturing there. It's meet new people, 10 networking events a week and 5 one-on-ones a day. And I don't, it's like a hit and run type of situation. Wait, what? You do who? What? Like, what do you do? Who are you? And you see people do it that way. Like, it's like throwing business cards out, boom, 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 boom. And then in the other extreme, you have people who only embrace short-term passive strategies, long-term passive strategies. And I differentiate that by how much influence do you have? A short-term strategy, an active strategy, means I have influence over how we're interacting and whether or not we're interacting. I can reach out to you. I know who you are. I can walk up to you. A passive strategy means I have no control. Posting on Facebook, a Google ad, not that we don't want to do them, but if that's all you're doing, you're going to run out of money and run out of time before you figure out the A/B split testing and the metrics you need to make those processes work. And most people fall into a trap, thank you, Instagram, where they just dive into these Insta tactics and just do this one thing, just, use the LinkedIn bot, and it doesn't work. It doesn't, and they think it's easier because they can do a higher volume faster. But I promise you, if I walk into a room of 25 people, I walk out with 10 people who can help me and I can help them. And that is a whole lot faster than Instagram bots and LinkedIn bots.
Erin, does that
awesome.
philosophy, it's fascinating. I like how you broke that down.
Yeah.
Between sales and marketing. We were talking about this before we started the interview, and I was candid. I said I've come across a lot of people in my career who carry the title sales and marketing, director of sales and marketing, whatever. There are a handful of folks that I've met who have that title and really understand both. And for the life of me, I don't really understand why that title gets thrown around the way it does. I think it's probably just, I don't know, just because it sounds good. And
it's thrown around by people who work off P&Ls. Are you producing income or are you making an expense? That's why. Those are income producing activities.
Congratulations. You're the director of sales and marketing. Hooray. But the way you broke down the process. So, could that same philosophy, or in your opinion, Erin, is that same philosophy carry towards organic growth? So, it's like in business, you've got the new, we're going after new blood, but then you've got the existing. And I always, that's always a different kind of bucket, because the way I always look at it is once you get someone in house, it's kind of like, now what do you do? Are you just taking their breakfast order? It's like, oh, Erin, you want eggs and bacon. I will serve up your eggs and bacon when I'm done. Or is it more what you describe? It's like, no. It's the same thing. We got to continue this journey. We got to continue to build that conversation, suggestive ideation, whatever you want to call it. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, it would seem that your philosophy can work both ways. It should.
All of it, right? It's active or it's passive. It's long-term or it's short-term. It's audience growth or it's audience nurturing. Is it right? Growth or nurturing? External sales, same store growth, right? Like when I was a child, I say child, I was like 26 years old. I managed apartment complexes in the Chicago suburbs. Who decided that 26-year-old almost high school dropout, juvenile delinquent Erin from the city, like street kid from the 70s and 80s in Chicago, should be in charge of a multi-million-dollar asset at the age of 26? I have no idea, but that's what I did. And it was so, like, one of the things we knew, and I knew this even as a kid, it's financially better for people to renew their leases than if they move out and I have to pay somebody to paint and clean and carpet and sell the new apartment. Like, The renewal guy, I only got to clean his carpet once a year and paint every 3. As opposed to missing the 4 months of rent, paying for the services involved. And one of the things, and we look at this all the time, so many small business owners I know, there's $100,000 sitting in their business that they're not even looking at. There's $100,000 sitting in their clientele that they're not even looking at. Now, if your business is already over the $1 million mark, your numbers are even bigger. And this goes back to what is the biggest problem that you solve and the biggest problem that your client has, and where do they intersect? Because every time you solve a problem, it creates a new problem. And what are you doing for your client for that? And maybe it's not you. Maybe it's referral sources. Maybe the income really should be strategic partnerships, buying another company. This is what we just did. This is what I'm calling my 3rd iteration of Conquer Your Business. And I just took on a graphic designer, web developer, and my COO came on full time for us, which means what is if someone's really successful with me, they now have to go implement things, except they don't have my contacts. They don't have my people. It gets lost in translation. They're already out of hours in the day. They're already out of days in the week. What can I do to help them? I don't know, make it all available to them under one umbrella. Because my people speak Erin, which evidently is its own language. I didn't know, but there it is. And so, so we're able to deliver a better solution. So what is that for you? Where are your clients? Where are you failing your clients? And back to branding, one of your first questions is, where do they get it wrong? We always get it wrong when we come from fear and scarcity. When we're saying yes to things we should say no to because we're scared to not say yes to them. When we're being who we think we're supposed to be instead of who we are. Like, all of this comes from scarcity. When we don't want to ask our clients if we can do one more thing for them, because what if they get upset? And going back to one of the things you said is, how do you marry marketing and sales? You marry marketing and sales with the intention that if you do your marketing correctly, a sales conversation is a confirmation conversation, not a consideration conversation. That's how you do it. Like, it's that straightforward.
Erin, I'd love to get your take on, you said you do, and then you could share, how do I want to approach this? I want to hear your take on this, and I want to hear how you consult with your clients as well. You say you spend 50% of your time on marketing, right? Now, of that 50%, some of that is short-term, some of that is long-term, right?
Oh yeah, lots of different things.
Give us that insight. It's like, how do you map it out, right? How do you map out like, okay, of that 50%, I got to be doing this kind of stuff short-term. What's your longer-term type of thing? Kind of give us that insight as to, that ideal mix, or as close as you could get to where you think is the ideal mix.
So when I'm working with people, number one, relationships first. It's who, not what. It's who, not how. It's who, not what. It's relationships first, every single time. So when I'm working with clients who don't really have a client acquisition system, because I do believe this needs to be a system, that's the first thing we look at is, who's your network? Who do you have in your phone? Who do you have on your LinkedIn that you could just message and they'll actually respond to you, right? Not just like your 5,000 followers, 10,000, 15,000, like, who do you actually know and have relationships with? So networking comes first. And you can do it a variety of ways. It depends on your business, right? It could be done twice a year at conferences and go make friends. It could be done monthly at a group of different networking events. That's great. Currently, my favorite way to network is swapping podcast platforms. I'm having the most fun in the universe meeting people all over the world by just swapping podcast platforms. That's my personal new networking approach, because I'm meeting amazing people who we already know we have something in common. We have the same clients. Like, it's been fantastic. So networking in and of itself can look differently, but you start with those relationships, right? So, okay, how do we tackle a long-term strategy in that? Well, that's keep in touch. There's got to be a follow-up keep in touch process that does not mean put me on your newsletter. That doesn't count. That's passive. and they probably didn't even give you permission, right? So, right, like that's not what I mean. That's a re-engagement tool. That's a passive strategy. So long-term active is my keep in touch follow-up from my networking. The other theory that I have, and this is how I ended up meeting you guys, if you're going to be in the room, be in the front of the room. If you're going to be in the room, be in the front of the room. I don't care if you're sponsoring, speaking, a part of the board. If you're going to be in the room, be in the front of the room. It's an instant credential, and you get to meet a lot more people. They come to you. Right? It's kind of like teaching. When I was a teaching assistant, I had 300 students. I didn't know 4 of them, but they knew me, right? Same thing. So that's number one. And then follow that up with the more passive re-engagement. Social media is passive re-engagement. Now, you can turn social media into active networking. I'm okay at it. It's very weird for me because it's not my default. I love walking. I love people. I want to talk to people. I want to get their energy and see them. So I'm more likely to be one-to-one, but you can network online and as well. And people do a great job of it. I do okay at it, but it's those active strategies first. Follow up so that your short-term strategies have a long-term tail, and then also re-engage with people in a passive way. And it just kind of all goes together. And underlying everything, this is the other thing. I decided 2 things when I started my business. Number 1, be of service at every stage. Be of service at every stage. So my marketing is an education-based marketing. Across the board, education-based marketing without fear of giving away great information. Give it all away. Because I know 2 things. This is my 2 theories on that. Number 1, the secret sauce is having me actually apply it for you to your business. Mm-hmm. There's nothing you're going to pick up in a book that matches someone else actually helping you. It just doesn't work that way. And number 2, my theory is have people feel, oh my God, if she does that for me for free, what will she do if I pay her? Like that's right. Like, great.
Right.
So 1, be of service. Even in a sales conversation, the way I do my sales conversations, even if you don't end up working with me, you will know something about your business and what to do about it before we get off the phone. It's just be of service. The other thing that I decided for my business was if I was going to charge less than $1,000 for it, I'll give it away. I'll give it away. So my events are free. Lots of free stuff because there's people who have no business paying me to help them. I'm too expensive for them. They can't get an ROI because of their business model, but they're great people. So let's just help them for free. If it's right, know where you draw that line, know what this is why I say strategy over tactics every time. If you know your philosophies, if you know your strategies, you don't get shiny object syndrome. You don't fall victim to the latest Instagram tactic. Because you know it doesn't fit. You know it doesn't fit. But you don't know that if you don't start with strategy.
Erin, 2 things I just want to call out and compliment you on. One is your follow-up approach, if that's what I want to call it. You were saying it's service driven, it's educational driven, and I love that because I that's always a challenge when you're spot on. You have to have that. What's the re-engagement? What's the follow-up process? There's got to be a process behind it. And I subscribe to that too. It's like you have to provide value. However you describe value. Is it service? Is it some sort of thinking? And don't overthink it, but have some sort of value in your touch point versus like, hey, Erin, I got you down that I have to contact. It's like, give them value. And that's the first thing. I love that. And that in itself takes some skill. You have to get used to it. But once you get it down, it works. The other thing I like, you were saying, like, how did you say that? Say it again for me. It's like, if it's under 1,000,
if I was going to charge under $1,000 for something, okay, I'm going to give it away for free. I don't run a business with tripwires.
Okay. So that's right. So thank you for saying that. And right away, I'm thinking like, how it's so much easier for you, Erin, to be the hero. Because if you're trying to squeeze dollars out of something that isn't going to make you money, oh my goodness, are you going to get the headaches? Versus like, you know what? I'm just going to help you. Oh my goodness, you all of a sudden become the hero. The sandbox becomes a little more loose. You have more freedom, and who knows where that leads, because now Pat loves you and he becomes an ambassador for you.
He becomes an
love
ambassador.
it.
You make raving fans. Like, spread good, people, how can I help you? I don't know, spread good rumors. Right? Like, it's give before you get.
Love it.
And it's not a linear process.
Love it.
Give before you get is not I give to Pat so he gives to me. It's I give to Pat so Michelle over there gives to me. It's not linear. It's universal. And it also, like, this is again the difference, and maybe this is really what it comes down to, is abundance and instead of fear and scarcity. It also is a differentiator, because the people who play at the entry level, what I call the how-to level, can't do this because they can't afford to do it. So it becomes a differentiator, right? If your business is, and this is how I do content also, I divide it into tactical and transformational. How do you do something? That's a commodity. We all know you can YouTube anything. But transformational is, how do I help you change your perspective about how to use the information, right? And so there's a lot of people in everybody's world, no matter what you do for a living, there's a lot of people in everybody's world who are stuck at tactical. And the best way to outperform them is to give away what they have to charge for.
Erin, you talked about content, and I want to stick on that topic for a moment. Okay. Taking a look at your website and the team that you have there, it's not a big organization, but yet, and you and I have known each other for a little bit of time here. Like, you pump out a ton of content, right? How do you do it? Kind of give us an insight. Take us behind the curtain.
I do this all the time. I call it thought leader content creation, because everything it's marketing. We all have to have catchy names, right? It takes me an hour a week to do
an hour a week. Listen up, y'all. Go.
So I do a live show on Tuesdays at 9:30. It live streams into my personal LinkedIn page and my business Facebook page. The recording of that's where my life ends. The record is 15 minutes. 10 minutes to write my notes, because my college boyfriend called me the random thought generator, and he wasn't wrong. If I don't have a list of points, God only knows what we're going to end up talking about. It might be fun, but it won't be in order, right? So I do a little outline to keep me in a row. I don't have ducks in a row. I have squirrels and they're at a rave. Like, it's definitely a problem. So I do a little outline and of what I want to talk about. And the topic always comes from something somebody said to me the week before, because I talk to so many people, right? So I do a 10 to 20 minute live show on Tuesday mornings. The transcription of that gets done by AI and sent to my content writer, who turns my words into something more grammatically correct for print. Because it takes a long time to write, but it doesn't take that long to speak. But when you speak, you're more conversational. We got to fix the grammar. AI is not perfect. So we don't just use AI cold. What I love is that she's editing, not writing. So for all of you business owners out there, editors are cheaper than writers. It is cheaper to hire someone to edit for you than to write and create for you. And now it still sounds like me, because I said it. So she turns that into an article, and then she turns it into, I don't know, 5, 7, whatever she does, posts. My other job then is to edit and approve the article and the post, because she's good. She's been with me forever, but there's always going to be something I said that I said it this way, but I meant it that way. And it's fine when you're talking, but it doesn't translate to writing. So I clean it up a little bit. Sometimes she's dead on. Sometimes it takes a little work. She's good. And that's it. And then she turns it into the newsletter and turns it into all the posts. And it also gets turned into a podcast that gets dropped once a week. So we are now dropping 3 podcasts a week, 1 solo teachable episode and 2 interviews. And yet, as the business owner, as my current running joke with myself is my job is to be the spokesmodel for the business. And at 5 feet tall, growing up watching Star Search, I never thought I'd be a spokesmodel, but here we are, right? Right? That's my job. My job is brand awareness, so that when I have people doing business development for me, I make their job easy by doing brand awareness. That's awesome. And that's what we do. And here's the thing. Is this perfect? Nope. This is, for example, one of the things we're doing completely wrong is repurposing the download as our email newsletter. Truthfully, if you want to do really good email marketing, your email list should get content that is not available elsewhere. I currently don't have bandwidth for that, so I don't worry about it. Right? Done is better than perfect. Will I get there? Sure. Will it be now? Nope. Not worrying about it. We still have 40% open rates, so we're not doing something so terrible.
Right. Erin Marcus, we're coming to the close of the conversation. We've been talking to her nearly an hour. I just feel like I just scratched the surface, and this is usually the way it is with Erin. It's like there's like a million more things I want to cover with her, so we'll have you back at some point. Erin,
yeah, absolutely.
First of all, thank you so much for being on here. You're awesome. I really love the everything you shared with us. You know the routine. This is your time. Tell people how they find out about you. Where could they get more information about Erin? Take as long as you want. The mic is yours.
It's real easy. And this is, here's a big takeaway. If you are out in the world, please give people one call to action. Don't give them 7 things to do. You want to make sure nobody does anything. Give them multiple things to do. So we make this very, very easy. All you need to do is go to conqueryourbusiness.com. That's it. Conqueryourbusiness.com. It's all there. Links are all there. Make life easy for your clients. We're going to make it easy for you. If you really want to get into something, I will promote something. I came up with a new download for people. I call it the Business Growth Profiler, because I love personality profiles. I was taught about them in college. I have a minor in criminal justice, and I had an instructor from Sing Sing. And so he gave us all of the tests that he used to give to the prisoners when they were dividing them up into groups to make sure they were as least violent as possible. And then what you find out is you're like one Scantron answer away from being a sociopath, and you get really less judgmental real fast when you see that it's a very narrow line between you and the crazy criminals, right? So we created one, but I love those profilers. They're so useful. And so we created one for your business, because business has a lot of moving parts, right? Remember I said I love the puzzle of business. So we broke it down for you with all these different categories that you have to think about as a business owner, because what happens is if 2 of those categories are going up, but one is stuck at the bottom, it ends up being an anchor. It ends up being an anchor for your business. So we created this profiler where you can go through these categories and figure out, is your business launched, leveraged, or are you leading, right? Those are the 3 categories: launching, leveraging, or leading your business in the categories. You can test yourself. And if you see, so you can see what's lagging that might be causing that anchor on your business. And it's real easy. It's on conqueryourbusiness.com. You can download it there. But we've been having a lot of fun with that.
Awesome. Erin Marcus, you've been great. Thanks so much for being on the pod. See you, y'all.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Erin.